Oh, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Efficiency Bitch podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Leone. This podcast is dedicated to all the women out there who are aspiring to have a career while raising a family. And bitch? Well, that's more than a name and even an attitude. We use it as an acronym. It's for bank, inbox, time, connection, and harmony. Each episode is labeled according to the correct topic so that you can efficiently find the topic that you're looking for. I'm here to tell you, you can have your cake and eat it too. The trick is finding efficient ways to get through the have-tos so that you can make room for your best life. I can show you how. Let's get started. Hey, welcome to the Efficiency Bitch podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Leone. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Beehive. I'm so glad you came. If you've been around a while, welcome back. I think you're going to love today's episode. Today is H for harmony, and it's a really important topic. Harmony is what we're after, right? It's the thing that makes life fun and enjoyable. And for me, I found a lot of harmony at a very special time in my life when I decided to change my relationship with alcohol. And that is that is the only thing we're going to talk about today. I have an amazing guest. Casey Davidson is here, and I just can't wait for you to meet her. So I'm not going to hesitate. Casey, welcome to the show. Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. Why don't you start with a little introduction of who you are, where you come from, and how you do life?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, my name is Casey McGuire-Davidson. I live in the Seattle, Washington area with my husband of 20 years, and I have two kids. I have a 15-year-old son and a 9-year-old little girl. And I also reevaluated my relationship with alcohol for a long time. I was a red wine girl my pretty much whole adult life, climbing the corporate ladder, having kids, holding on really tightly to my love of red wine, and started wondering if I needed to change the way I was drinking, how much I was drinking, rein it in when my son was, pretty young, like 6 months old, 12 months old, 18 months old. Ended up taking a year off from alcohol when he was 5 and ended up stopping completely when he was 8 and my daughter was 2.
Awesome. So today
I'm 7.5 years alcohol free, which is insane because I used to be like 365 nights a year drinker.
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly it can go. I just am at 3.5 now, and sometimes it's like, wow, that feels like yesterday. And then sometimes I think, yeah, this is 3.5 years. That's awesome. That's a good long time. So
that's awesome.
That's great. And so now you help women who are sober curious, maybe dabble in what it may be like to be alcohol free for a short period or for a long period. And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a life and sobriety coach. I tend to work with high achieving women who are sort of doing it all, packed schedules, endless to-do lists, super competent, super efficient, and also are coming home and sort of just sucked dry at the end of the day and are really looking forward to that drink at the end of the day, opening a bottle of wine while they cook dinner, a date night with their partner, going out for girls' nights. And alcohol has become more and more important to them in terms of the way they cope, the way they relax, the way they celebrate. They're worried about their relationship with alcohol. Maybe they wake up at 3 a.m. with anxiety. Maybe they feel vaguely hungover. Maybe they keep drinking when they told themselves they'd only have 2 glasses of wine a night twice a week. And I have a podcast called the Hello Someday podcast for sober, curious women. I work with women one-on-one, and I have a course, and the entire purpose is to shift your relationship with alcohol, take a longer period of time without it, and see how good you feel without being dragged down and having so much of your time and mind space and energy consumed with sort of getting a handle on the amount of alcohol you consume, how often you consume it.
It's so interesting, right? And I felt this way myself. when I had the thought of not drinking, it scared me. It was like, yeah, no, I can't do that. Or I don't want to do that. Maybe I thought
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that, but something in me did want to do it, but I was afraid to take that first step. And I still don't know why I felt that way. Maybe it was habit, maybe it was routine, maybe it was fear of being uncomfortable in a social situation. But today it seems so simple. It seems
Yeah.
like actually the idea of having a drink seems very complicated and scary to me versus the idea of not having a drink. Why did you decide to stop drinking, and how have you kept that as part of your norm?
Yeah. I mean, I desperately did not want to stop drinking. And I think that's, I'm not alone in that. Like, I really loved it. I
Mhm.
loved the way I felt like it hit my bloodstream, the way it lit up my brain. We've been also conditioned so much to value alcohol, to think it's essential in social interactions, and
Mhm.
also to sort of wonder if anyone who decides not to drink is having a problem with alcohol or pregnant or boring. Like, those
Yeah,
are my three
it's a
categories
religious
before I
thing.
stopped drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I definitely knew that I didn't have an off switch for a very long time. If I never wanted a glass of wine in my life. Like, I
Mhm.
wanted to feel that buzz. I always wanted more. So I was worried about that for a while because I knew it was impacting my sleep and my energy. Sometimes, before I quit, I wouldn't remember the end of shows I watched, or I was just working really hard to hold it together, and I was, often like, ooh, do I have enough wine at home?
Mhm.
Should I stop at the store before I pick my kids up at daycare? Can I signal the waitress to get me another glass of wine before it becomes awkward, where
Mhm.
everybody else is ready for the check? But I didn't want to stop. And I think that one of the things I've learned is, if you wait until you actually don't want to drink, you'll be waiting a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And alcohol is like a magnet. The closer you are to drinking, the stronger the pull. And you actually have to get a period of continuous time away from it to look back and say, oh my God, I can't believe I was living that way, because you don't know all the ways that alcohol impacts your body and your mind,
Mhm.
to the point where we're like, well, drinking makes me happy. I need it to relax. Once you get it out of your system, you notice that alcohol, like, very, in a very concrete and tangible way, suppresses dopamine, your happy hormone, serotonin, which regulates your mood and emotions, and spikes cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and also really decreases the quality of your sleep, even after one or two glasses.
Mhm.
So you get away from that and you're like, wow, I'm happier, I'm more calm, I have more energy. I don't, quote unquote, need that drink the way
Mhm.
I used to.
Yeah, I experienced exactly that. I had this weird instinct to try dry January. And I
Mhm.
can't explain it. I don't know. I knew I was in a really shitty part of my life. I was just in everything felt bad. I was not liking my job. I was unhappy at home. I was unhappy with my friends. Like, I was just in a ick spot, right? And I think everybody goes through ick spots in their life. It's just part of the human experience. But there was something continuously tapping me on the shoulder. It was like December of 2019, like, hey, try dry January. And I was, no way, I am not doing it. And it kept hitting me over and over again. And I was listening to Rachel and Dave Hollis's podcast. They don't think they do it anymore since they're separated, but I was listening to their podcast and they were talking about how they were going to do dry January. And then I was reading a Brene Brown book at the time, and she talked about how she was sober. And then I opened Women's Health magazine, which I had constantly was reading and had never seen it before. And I opened it and it was mocktails right there in the middle. And I thought, okay, I will try dry January.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Dry January was tough. I've struggled to like feel comfortable in my skin around my partner and around my friends who are not doing dry January. Um, but that felt really good. And I kept going. Once I got through that first month, it made things so much easier. What do you think that is? Why was it in Women's Health magazine? Like, there's a cultural
Yeah.
revolution happening right now. That wasn't an accident. It's
Oh, no.
everywhere.
I actually was searching just now for the growth in Google search terms year over year for dry January, and it's incredible. So the first time that I tried to stop drinking was a decade ago. And dry January really was not a part of popular culture or discussions. Neither were non-alcoholic beverages. I mean, the word sober curious was not coined. Online sobriety podcasts, anything outside of the 12-step programs was really, really limited. And actually, when I stopped drinking 7.5 years ago, there was very little out there as well. It was just starting for people to write on blogs and books about what we now call this booming quit lit genre of books about women quitting drinking, memoirs and stories and how-tos. So I absolutely love the huge growth in dry January over the years, because I think it makes the idea of taking a period of time off of drinking without all the fears that come with it. What are people going to think? What am I going to say? I mean, people pressure you to drink often, or ask you why, or encourage you to just have one. When you take a period of time off alcohol in a way you would never do for any other drug, or including if someone said, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian," you wouldn't be like, "Oh, just have a burger today." Like, how long are you going to be a vegetarian?
Right.
So it's interesting, but last year, 35% of American adults participated in dry January. I mean, that's
cool.
Incredible. You will see stories in, like you said, Women's Health, also USA Today, on Good Morning America, Today Show, in Vogue. Every publication writes about dry January each year. And there's also dry July and sober October. And it is wonderful. And sort of coinciding with that, and I think this is part of, there are now so many more approaches to not drinking than the traditional 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous path. That was not my path. But one of the great things about it is, by definition, Alcoholics Anonymous is anonymous. You're not supposed to talk about it. Whereas now it's become very popular to talk about taking a period of time off of alcohol with pride, and for huge amounts of us to not drinking with pride. And it really helps with the idea of, alcohol. It's not popular to say, but it's highly addictive. You go through withdrawal when you drink any amount. And the more you drink, the more often you go through deeper withdrawal. And so then you need to drink to feel normal. And that's
hair of the dog, right? I mean, they literally call it that.
Yeah, but that's not even, I know to feel normal that you picture someone at sort of a severe alcohol use disorder. To feel normal, meaning to feel relaxed, to feel happy, to shake off the day. And a lot of us get into that very easily. So it's not until you take a period of time away from alcohol, that if you're a decently regular drinker, that you're like, oh my God, I am more optimistic. I'm more happy. I'm more energetic. I'm more relaxed. I have more patience with my kids. And that's not to say it's all unicorns and rainbows.
No, of course not.
Definitely a process to change your relationship with alcohol, to get in the habit of not drinking, to navigate our boozy world. And I don't know about you, but I drank pretty much my entire adult life. Like, I had no idea.
And most of my teenage life.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea what, I know what summers look like and feel like drinking. I had no clue what a summer would be like alcohol free.
I mean, we're both moms, right? So we both went several months while we were pregnant, not having alcohol, but that didn't feel as good to me as my intentional choice not to drink has felt to me over the last 3 years. When I was pregnant or I was nursing, like maybe I didn't have any alcohol while the baby was in my belly. And then I was careful while I was nursing, but I was still waiting for it on the other side. I have zero waiting for it anymore. I don't want it. I'm not interested. And I recognize how, if you're listening to this and you enjoy drinking, like we both know how that feels. We both know when you listen to someone say sobriety it feels good to feel this way, that it feels uncomfortable. It feels preachy. It made me feel really uncomfortable when people talked about that they didn't drink because I thought they were judging me, or I thought maybe I was judging myself for that. And we get that, right? We understand that that's part of it. But it changed my life completely in so many ways. My relationship with my children. I'm really fortunate too, because my kids don't remember me when I drank. They were younger, right? My oldest was 8.5 when I stopped drinking. So she has no memory of drunk mom, but I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got that drunk in front of them, or that I was that hungover in front of them is really more of what it was like, because they were asleep when I was doing the drinking. But it's embarrassing sometimes. So if you're listening to this, it's okay to feel that those nerves or that shame or that embarrassment. We've been there too. But it does get so much better.
Yeah, I've absolutely been there too, obviously. And I think it takes a lot of courage to, most drinkers surround themselves with other drinkers. Most of us who really love drinking and have it as part of our regular lives, wonder how hard it's going to be to socialize without alcohol with all of our friends, all those dinner parties, or there's mommy wine play dates, or, maybe our partner drinks a lot too. And one of the pieces of advice that really helped me and that I share with my clients is just to lower the stakes on it a little bit, to be really open about the fact you're not drinking for a period of time, but you don't have to share anything else about it. It's totally fine to be like, I'm not drinking for a while as a health challenge because I want to feel better, have more energy, sleep better, less anxiety. I mean, all of that is proven. And that's it, and not have it be so loaded in terms of what it means, even if you're personally worried about it.
Yeah, I agree. I have found a lot of enjoyment out of non-alcoholic beers. I just had a CBD water for the first time the other night, and I don't think I'll do that again. I still really prefer the non-alcoholic beer. But do you like NA drinks?
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. And my absolute favorite is Athletic Brewing Company. They are, I mean, if anyone hasn't tried it, it is incredible. It tastes so good. This is not O'Doul's or other really crappy beer, non-alcoholic beer. They have a golden that's incredible. They have an IPA. It's in all the grocery stores. I found it at our Major League Baseball stadium and outdoor concerts. That is my favorite, but there is also so much. The universe of there's non-alcoholic Prosecco. That's wonderful. So many great non-alcoholic rosés, and spirits as well. I was never a mixed drink girls, but they have vodka. And if gin, if you go to a lot of bars, they have non-alcoholic, mocktails, or I actually think 0 proof cocktails sound better. But you can enjoy the ritual and the lifestyle. You're just shifting the ingredients.
It's interesting that our brains still enjoy the idea of alcohol, right? Like, I don't know why. I don't know why my brain still feels relaxed and happy when I order an NA beer, and I get the disappointment if I go to a restaurant and they don't have an NA beer, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
And I don't know why my brain correlates those two things together, but NA drinks have really helped me feel comfortable in social situations without being tempted to drink. And
Yeah.
so I know a lot of people think that they may be triggers, but for me, it's huge.
They haven't been triggering to me. And actually, I mean, obviously, if it is triggering to you, definitely don't drink it. And triggering meaning you have a non-alcoholic beer and that starts a craving for an alcoholic beer. And you're just like, that's what I want. For a lot of, what I love about, the realization I've had. So I take a behavior and a habit change approach to quitting drinking. Yes, there are people on the severe end of alcohol use disorder where they are physically addicted to it. I mean, anyone will go through withdrawal, which is essentially a hangover after any period of drinking a certain amount or often. But most of us are primarily emotionally and habitually addicted to drinking in some way, or, used to it, conditioned to it. What I love with what you're describing with the non-alcoholic drinks, and I feel the same way, we're like Pavlov's dogs, right? We've been conditioned to, as soon as you think about ordering the glass of wine at a restaurant, you feel more relaxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as if you're debating drinking or not drinking, people are like, oh my God, I finally felt happy as soon as I decided to drink. That is a conditioned response. You're feeling that way before you ever consume it. That means you can decondition yourself and become conditioned to relax, enjoy life with something else, whether it's a non-alcoholic beverage around a fire pit or at a bar, or meditating, or going for walks every day, or a cup of tea, or a million other things that can bring you true pleasure.
Yeah. It's so important for me. And I like to share this on my podcast as often as I can, because it was the first thing I can identify as changing my life into this positive environment and universe that I've created over the last several years. It was the first tangible, real thing that shifted in my life, that set a whole other series of dominoes in motions to starting a podcast and a business and having a book and blah, 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 all the amazing things that have happened. This was the first thing that started. And so it's something that I'm really passionate about sharing. What do you think keeps us, like if we had to go back to yourself 8 years ago or me 4 years ago, what are we afraid of? If someone's listening to this, what are they feeling? What's that worry?
Oh, everything. So, I mean, I think that we have a lot of deeply ingrained beliefs about what alcohol does for us. And, it's sort of like this circular firing squad in some ways. Like, we've been taught by marketing, overtly, subtly, that drinking makes you attractive, sophisticated, right? You're defined. If you go to a bar and you order a cosmopolitan, you're a certain kind of woman. If you order a dirty martini, you're another kind of woman. If you're ordering a drink at a ball game or drinking out of a keg, you're fun. If you drink red wine, you're sophisticated, whatever it is. But not only that, we're conditioned that like New Year's Eve won't be as special if you don't have a glass of champagne, or the evening isn't romantic if you don't have a drink with your partner. And we do it to each other, right? Anyone posts on social media about a terrible day, you'll get 6 comments about get yourself a glass of wine stat, or mommy needs a drink, or it's sippy time, whatever it is. So when you think about stopping drinking, I think the big fears women have is, how will I ever relax? How will I ever have fun again? I will feel deprived or isolated or bored, or worse, boring. A lot of women have fears about like, but that's how I connect with my husband, that's how we transition from parents to sort of dating again. A lot of women are like, sober sex, what am I going to do with that? Which, by the way, it actually is way better.
Agreed.
Agreed. One of the things people don't tell you.
Yeah.
And then, how will I ever escape adulting and parenting? And I love exploring those because that, if you think about a period of time without alcohol as an experiment, you approach it with curiosity and some excitement and as a true period of self-care, everything you're scared of, that's just something you have the opportunity to disprove.
Mhm.
You can say, I'm scared of X. How will I ever relax? Okay, well, I'm taking a month off of alcohol. What are all the other ways that I can relax? I could go to yoga. I could meditate. I could go on a long walk. I could take a nap. You just, I feel like our world gets really small, our world of reward and coping tools. And we get kind of lazy.
Yeah.
Alcohol is our easy button, right? Bored, sad, lonely, celebrating anything,
Yeah. All of them.
here,
I
have
hear
a
it a
drink.
lot. I hear it a lot from my friends around February or maybe in August this year of, I tried it and I lasted a week. I
Yep.
tried it. I lasted 10 days. What is your message to those who have tried it and haven't lasted,
Yeah.
who maybe want to try it again?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that the best thing I can tell you is to get some information or support or a plan. There are tips and tricks and strategies, and you don't have to stumble around in the dark working on
Mhm.
this. In a lot of ways, motivation and willpower will only take you so far, right? There is a finite limit to it, but you can change. I take a behavior change approach. You can change your cues, your cravings, your responses, your rewards. And it's not rocket science, but it also really helps to know that at a week or at 10 days, here's what's happening in your body. Of
Mhm.
course you want to drink. That's because you are in the deepest part of withdrawal. And, in order to get to day 14 or day 21, when you feel so much better, here are some concrete things you can do to get
Yeah.
over it. So, like I said, I have a podcast that has, episodes like 7 strategies for your first week without alcohol. I have a free 30-day guide on my website with 30 tips for your first 30 days. And just get some information and support. You wouldn't try to run a marathon without, reading some books or joining a Couch to 10K or 5K group,
Mhm.
you'd probably read some blogs and figure out what the right shoes are. This is a huge part of your life. And so, get some information that'll help make it positive.
And just because you tried it once and it didn't work out doesn't mean it won't work the next time. I stumbled. I decided dry January 2020, right? So I decided in 19 and then 2020 was the year. And I got to January 22nd. And then I was on a work trip and I was at dinner with all my bosses and they're all the big guys. And I drank a lot that night on January 22nd. And I woke up on the 23rd and I thought that was dumb. Like, don't do that again. So then I, dusted myself off and finished January. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to do February. I think I got lucky, Casey, because the world shut down right then for 2020. And I was not in any social situations for the better part of a year. I was in my house with my kids.
Mhm.
And my husband still had to work out of the house because he was in that essential services bucket. Right. So I had to stay sober because I was the only one keeping the 3 kids alive and working my job. But I really wish I had known about programs like yours when I was doing it because I did it, but it wasn't easy. And I think it would have been a lot better had I had that training plan or the 30-day tips or just someone to talk to
Yeah.
and recognize that the things I was feeling or worried about or proud of myself, I needed to brag about it
Yeah.
sometimes. I mean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's part of the reason I want to have podcasts that talk about my sobriety because I still need to pat myself on the back about it sometimes.
Yeah. And I would say give yourself a lot of credit
Mm-hmm.
for not drinking during the pandemic and that lockdown period. You're saying it was easy. I mean, I have to tell you that binge drinking among women during the pandemic rose by 40%, and drinking among parents of kids under the age of 5 grew by 323%. It completely exploded the way in which most Americans drank. And now a lot of people, as we came out of it, and we've been, transitioning out of it for a while now, are really evaluating, is that the way I want to live? I'm ready to focus on my health. I'm ready to focus on my mental health. Every single day, more news articles come out talking about the fact that the information we've been sold in the past about how moderate drinking is healthier for you than not drinking at all, or how some red wine is good for your heart. That is all completely false. And I think the younger generations are getting that message. Gen Z is really drinking a huge amount less than their parents and grandparents did at the same age. Millennials are drinking less, and the biggest drinkers are Gen X, and then actually baby boomers. Like, grandparents are drinking just a ton of alcohol. And, I think it's time to get on that sober curious train, because you're going to feel so much better.
I watched a documentary the other day, and I'll keep this short, about prohibition. And so it was like a 8 or 9 series, hour-long thing. My son and I like to watch documentaries. So he and I watched this together, and it started with how prohibition started. And it was primarily because men were drinking at the saloons, and they'd get wasted, and they'd come home and rape their wives and beat their children. And it became an epidemic where a lot of women were stepping forward saying, we have to do something. And then men realized there was an issue, and it rose to the level of not just county and state sobriety, or dry county and state, but that it went to the Supreme Court. And the United States had to come up with a way to supplement the tax that they received from alcohol. And that's where income tax came from. So we got income tax in this country for the first time because of prohibition, because they were like, oh, well, we're not going to have the tax from the alcohol, so we have to tax people otherwise. So it all started in that same area. And then because of prohibition, people kept drinking anyway, and it was open to everyone all the time. And women were finally allowed to drink because everybody was allowed to drink. Children were allowed to drink. It was illegal for everyone. So it was immediately available to everyone. And it was actually women who fought to get it overturned, prohibition. So I find it really interesting, some of the roots that come with the prohibition. I mean, obviously alcohol's been around for a very, very long time in human existence, but I find it very interesting the way that it's developed in this country and what it's actually stood for. From part of women's liberty and freedom was some of those alcohol endeavors, both of starting prohibition and from ending it. And I think we're at another turning point again, where women are starting to wake up and realize maybe that's not working anymore either. And I think it's really interesting that it's oftentimes women that are having these conversations and leading them. Because I don't know any men's groups that do what you do. Do you know of any?
There are definitely some that do that, and I give recommendations for other groups for men and podcasts that are also looking at alcohol-free life. I mean, I think there is a real craving for approaches that are not, the best known path to quitting drinking, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it was created in 1935 by 2 white Christian men. It's helped millions of people. And at the same time, in my opinion, it's fairly dated and paternalistic and, white Anglo-Saxon religious overtones.
Agreed.
That's not to say it doesn't work for a lot of people, but it is to say that it's not an approach for everyone.
Right.
And I think that, the new take on alcohol and women, I mean, I think it goes through, when you were talking about prohibition cycles, that a lot of things have, right? I mean, women didn't used to be able to hold credit cards without their husband. I mean, didn't use my grandmother. When she was born, women couldn't vote. Women couldn't own property. Being able to drink is with birth control in terms of autonomy and not having men in government tell us what we're allowed to do. And I think that more and more, and I love the book Quit Like a Woman by Holly Whitaker, people are seeing that alcohol in many respects has become a tool for keeping women quiet. I think of it, since we're both mothers, as sort of a pacifier. You know, when your children are upset or crying or something, you're like, here, honey. I mean, I don't know if everyone did this, but I certainly did. You know, here's your pacifier, self-soothe, go back to sleep. I saw this meme I absolutely hated because it was so true. And it was, you know, the man's guide to talking to women or whatever. And things were categorized. I mean, it was a joke and yet also totally insulting, right? But it was like very dangerous, neutral, safe, very safe, right? In this chart. Dangerous was like, oh my God, are you wearing that? Or what'd you do all day? Or whatever it was. And the very safest thing to say to a woman in every single one of those situations was, here, honey, have a glass of wine. I see wine as sort of the modern woman's pacifier. We tell ourselves, we tell each other, oh my God, you've had all these microaggressions at work. You are overburdened. You don't have enough help. You're lonely. This is hard. Here, honey, have a glass of wine.
Like, let that sink in, right? That's crazy that it's, oh yeah. I mean, I feel that completely. That certainly was the
And then
way
when you
to relax.
take that away, it actually is very empowering, and it actually requires you to demand more. You take away your favorite way to pacify and mollify yourself. And by the way, you are literally pacifying yourself. You are, you know, slowing down your brain function with alcohol. And then you realize that you do need more help, and that things that you used to drink to let go because it irritated you actually need to change, and you need to empower yourself and have better boundaries and put yourself first. And by the way, all of that is good. I mean, I hate the word selfish. You are the person who is meant to make yourself happy and take care of yourself, or no one else will. Now, you are a smart, ambitious, loving woman. You are not going to neglect your children, but too many of us drink to push down all the things in our life that we're just tolerating.
I hear a lot of people say they have to drink in order to fall asleep. I live with one of those people who likes to say that. And it's actually, you sleep a lot better without it. I fall asleep a lot faster since I quit drinking. I don't pass out like I once did. That's different, but I can fall asleep and stay asleep, and the quality of sleep is so much better. So there's just so many things. And if anybody ever asks me, like, what's something I can do to improve my life, I typically have one of two answers, and it's quit drinking or can think about quitting drinking, right? The idea of quitting altogether scares the hell out of people.
Yeah. Take a break. See what happens.
And change your relationship with your money, change your relationship with alcohol, change your relationship with money. And those two things have been catalysts for me. So, I appreciate you coming on, and it's something that I don't get to talk about as often as I like to. So I love that you came on. And why don't you share with where our audience can connect with you and continue a conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. Whenever I meet other cool women who have also quit drinking, gone on the alcohol-free path, I love meeting them because they've definitely done some self-development and personal work, and also are pretty badass in navigating our boozy world alcohol-free. So you can find me. My podcast is the Hello Someday podcast. It's for sober, curious women. It's a top 100 mental health podcast. And my God, I have 170 episodes out there that you can just scan and find one that appeals to you. My website is Hello Someday Coaching, and I have a free 30-day guide, a free masterclass on how to take a break from drinking, and I do private coaching and have a course called the Sobriety Starter Kit. That's a self-study sober coaching course.
So awesome. Casey, thank you so much for coming on. If this is your first time listening, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes. And until next week, see you then. I'm Melissa Leon. See ya.
Well, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for listening. If you're new around here, please be sure to leave us a review on any podcast platform you're listening to. And you can always reach out to me to let me know what topics you're interested in hearing about, or maybe telling me someone you think would be great for the show. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at EfficiencyBee. Until next time, see ya.